I think we have to consider the testimony that we've heard. So the essential part, if we, depending on how Joan wants to understand that section, but let's assume that appropriate and essential can be applied to the material for the field. The question is can they provide a sufficient athletic experience with grass without the need of synthetic? The whole point of the synthetic has been pitched because they cannot provide a sufficient experience on a grass field system at the high school. The problem with that is that the high school has never had a properly built athletic field, and they don't properly manage the athletic fields, at least to the standard that the school would like it to be held at, and the athletes in their testimony would like it to be held to. So I think the question is hard to answer for us because they haven't yet proved to us through a management program that grass cannot be managed properly to reach the level that the school would like it to be. That's, I think, the big problem here is we have yet to be proven, it is yet to be proven that grass cannot work there. The field is going to be 220 tons of plastic. I think that's something we should keep in perspective. And, I think to Fred's earlier point about you can't get a decent playing field without plastic, I think we've had enough expert testimony that disagreed with that we can rely on.
Afford it.
There is testimony from parents against the use of plastic with kids coming up through the athletic program. So I don't think it's fair to say that everyone that is going to be participating in sports wants plastic fields. I think there's enough testimony on both sides, whether or not the coaches all rallied around this project as the school has. So I think we have to respect that there are people on the island that have younger kids that are playing sports that will want their kids to play sports up and through high school, that don't want their kids to be playing on a plastic field. The other aspect of plastic is there is no doubt that the world is inundated with plastic to an unacceptable level. It's now in our air, it's in our water, it's in our soil, it's in our own bodies. And we do need to make choices about what plastics we use in our life. When you go to the hospital and you need emergency surgery, you're not going to stand there and bicker about the plastics that the doctor is using to save your life. But here we have a choice, a large project that has been a trigger point in the community, where as an organization, we get to decide on the direction around plastics, not relying on individual choice, but setting policy. And if you look at any literature about what it's going to take to get the world to move off of fossil fuels, to be more careful with the use of plastics, it's not going to happen through individual choice. That was a beautiful marketing plan that was invented by first the cigarette company and then picked up by the fossil fuel companies and then the petrochemical companies to move the responsibility from industry and policy makers and government to the individual. And we have to stop making that choice. We can't rely on individuals deciding we're going to use less plastic. That's why the plastic-free MV kids wrote a bottle ban. They knew that the only way to make any kind of gain in this is to do it through policy. We are here going to set policy for the school and how they use their property. That is our role. And we need to consider that carefully. We have an opportunity to make policy and to make a choice. And I think we need to weigh that. We have to weigh that carefully. I guess I'm going to play the contrarian role here. I don't think it's a comprehensive look at the athletic facilities. One, it's just phase one. We have really no idea what phase two looks like. Two, we're going to have a derelict track and the infield of a track that is probably the worst field on the campus, untouched. And there are also other fields that are getting no attention in this project. So to call it comprehensive, I think is quite a stretch. I want to circle back to the word sufficiency, because this is an important topic with climate change and the environmental degradation caused by plastics and resource extraction. Right now, places like Martha's Vineyard and other wealthy places in the world that have the privilege to even be having this debate are using more resources than the planet can provide. And when I talk about sufficiency, it means communities like ours and others to think more broadly about their impact on the rest of the world in what they use to provide what they think they need. Now, I played on the high school fields, and I just want to put that right up front. And when I walk on the fields today, they are in no real different condition than they were then. This was prior to the 90s edition, which added more fields. So there were even less fields then. But we also didn't have lacrosse, which is the only spring sports field, the only sport that's played on the field in the spring. You can say baseball and softball, but it's a different type. But I want people to focus on this sufficiency piece. We need to make choices as a community about how much do we really need, how many fields we need, what types of fields we need. And we have the opportunity through proper maintenance, using island labor, to provide a high level grass field. We can do that as an island. We have the right soil, as the testimony has revealed. We have the will, and we have the largesse of a community to support it. So we need to think about our choices, not just for what it gives to our community, but that effect on the rest of the world. And we need to pay attention to that, because places like the Vineyard need to reduce. We need to reduce our impact.